Hello, everyone, and welcome to this panel discussion on the future of IT operations, AIOps, observability, and beyond. I'm Cyril, a senior evangelist from ManageEngine IT operations management team, and I'll be your host for today. For today's discussion, I'm very pleased to introduce our guest speaker, Sivachandrakarthik. He is the chief architect for LTI Mindtree's cloud experience platform, and he has over 18 years of experience in the IT industry, and he's contributed to the development of platform-based business solutions for the cloud and infrastructure. And his expertise extends to managing extensive IT estates across diverse business verticals. And he is currently involved in nurturing the generative AI efforts and is focusing on integrating these trends to optimize operations and enhance overall system efficiency and reliability. And Siva is also dedicated to staying at the forefront of technological advancements and ensures a forward-thinking approach in crafting innovative solutions for evolving hybrid cloud ecosystems, which is why he has some really interesting insights to share with us on AIOps, observability, and cloud environments. So welcome, Siva. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today.
Thanks for that introduction, Cyril. And hello, everyone. And I'm thrilled to be here for this opportunity to talk about observability and AIOps and how they are really transforming in our today's trend into an futuristic IT operations.
Okay, Siva, we're really happy to have you here. We also have with us Gowrisankar, who is the Director of Product Management representing ManageEngine, the Enterprise IT Management Division of Zoho Corporation. Gowrisankar has over 20 years of experience in the software industry, and currently he heads the product management team of itom solutions in ManageEngine. He has spent over a decade leading the pre-sales, support, training, and customer success teams for IT management products in ManageEngine and has been working in product management for the past 6 years. Thank you so much for joining us, Gauri.
Thanks for having me, Cyril. Thank you.
So without further ado, let's get started with today's discussion. As we know, the complexity of IT environments, applications, databases, networks have increased significantly, and they will only continue to grow as more organizations move towards a digital-first future. According to a report by IDC, the worldwide spending on digital transformation is forecast to reach almost $4 trillion by 2027. And this move to a digital-first future is certain to bring several challenges to organizations, including lack of visibility across the IT landscape, data silos that hinder efficient decision-making, and reactive incident management, that leads to prolonged downtimes and much more. So my first question is directed to Gauri. Gauri, what advancements are being made to provide insights into this complex IT environment, and how does AIOps or full stack observability tie into this?
Cyril, when you talk about observability, right? So you also mentioned about multi-cloud and complex IT environments. In my opinion, the need for cloud when the digitalization happened, more and more infra started moving to the cloud, right? So that was the initial point of observability. I'll explain. Say when we had all the infras on the on-premises, it was more of availability monitoring, say how to monitor the health and performance of network device applications or servers, virtual devices like that. So it was very simple. Monitor the availability and performance of few matrices. But when it started moving to the cloud, more and more containers started coming in, microservices and other stuff coming in, and it became too complex. And it's not just a single cloud. There are multi-clouds, and some of them are in hybrid environment. So the typical monitoring tools that we had, right, that was not enough, because availability is not at all needed in the cloud infra. Because on need basis, a new container can come in, new device can come in, new server can come in, and they're always available. They're elastic in nature. But the need changed from availability and performance to the application performance and end user experience. So that was the real change, which brought us to the observability. So instead of monitoring the metrics, how to make the environment observable? That was the need at that time, right? So it was actually the cloud which resulted in this. So when it became cloud, when infra moved to the cloud and all those complex technologies, devices, applications started to move to the cloud. So we since I said matrices are not enough, we have to look into other forms of data like events, logs coming out of those devices, applications, and even the traces of those applications and end user experiences. So if we need to combine all these things, only then we can provide the complete insights, how my business is performing, how my application performance is happening, how my end users are experiencing. These things can be achieved only if we observe the complete system with this matrices, events, logs, and traces, shortly called as MELT, right? So the mindset has moved. As an observability vendor, we have to move the mindset from normal KPI monitoring to the complete observability, right? So that change happened. And then, so once we get all these things, it wasn't humanly possible for you to analyze all the data. So because there are thousands and thousands of events coming from tons and tons of data is there. So we have to analyze all these things and provide some meaningful insights that wasn't possible with a normal monitoring tool. So there should be an automation coming in, right? So that is where this AIOps, AL and ML, artificial intelligence and ML, machine learning coming into the picture, that reduced the complexity. And just by analyzing the previous history or a trend, it was able to provide some additional insights. What will happen if the performance continues to go like this? Say, what we can also provide the better root cause analysis. Say something had happened and why it had happened. Instead of multiple teams analyzing different silos and matrices, this root cause analysis, AI-based root cause analysis coming in and making the lives of the admins easier, right? And that was much needed with respect to observability. So observability is there. We wanted to know how to make that system observable. We did that, and it started generating so many data. So AIOps coming into the picture, right? So these are all some of the changes, and this introduction of AIOps is one of the icing on the cake, I would say, that moved the observability and made it to be adopted by all the admins across the world.
Thank you so much, Gauri. I think that pretty much covered, how the industry has evolved over a period of time, and also a major reason for why the industry has evolved in such a way is customer expectations or end user expectations, right? And so I think all of that also have pushed organizations towards observability. And as you rightly mentioned, Melt and various components are very essential. And actually that ties into my next question to Siva. Siva, so Gauri mentioned, right, how things have evolved in the industry. So my question to you is, in what are the primary ways in which implementing observability can help organizations navigate these challenges?
Right, and there was a great input given by Gauri about how it is a data-driven, right? So considering the complexity of cloud and the transformation what customers are going through. So getting into observability or AIOps adaptations, these both complements each other. There are so before observability was there, the AIOps was already there. Even today, a lot of behind the scene AIOps, there is a ANML already it is working, and for the betterment of IT operations. What is exactly needed was bringing in the consolidation of your data. So it is going to be data driven, like as rightly mentioned about Gauri, right? There are too many data are floating around, be it a performance and availability from the matrices point of view, or your logs and traces point of view, or a telemetry data, are certain data customers adapted through Kubernetes or your EKS and AKS environment. So those are all, you cannot just like collect the standard monitoring matrices data, right? So to point it out, what is a recommendation based on the experience we give it to customers? To start with observability, improvise your KPIs and matrices within your monitoring environment. It can be your cloud monitoring, it can be infra monitoring, it can be application monitoring, right? So which becomes a entry point. So end of the day, it is going to be data driven, but you need to consolidate the data into one roof, which is observability, then take it to the next layer. How many you can automate for your IT operations? So it can be starting from your mundane job automation from your Windows to do something on the CPU memory disk, or has an impact to application. There's a pod is getting failed, how to restore the pod or how to restore it, whether to impact is happening in the clusters, right? Analyzing in a very complex environment, right? So this has to go through an incremental approach. So when you say incremental approach, start with observability, evolve your monitoring strategy, then get into a use case of AIOps adoption. So that is where we recommend, so that you registered your entry, improvise, and then move into a better automation. So it gives a incremental value to what you're trying it out. So I mean, hope I answered your question on how it has to be both on the observability and AIOps adoption. So this both are data driven; they complement each other, but always to start with observability, having a data engine layer first. So put all the data into it, process it accordingly, take it forward to the next layer. How many can be automated? Do I need to do fine tuning in the entry side of it? Do the fine tuning so that you have a better automation. It saves a lot of time and effort. It saves a lot of, instead of adapting, I in the name of adapting to observability, we should not pump in the all the raw data into one place, which is going to increase the cost on the tool side, which is going to increase the cost on your storage or whatsoever you bring in. But you have an entry point where you can consolidate. Your monitoring tool can do a certain level of consolidation. You can send the right amount of data, what is required to get into observability, decide and take it forward. So start with observability, move into AIOps, and do a better operations output. I mean, that's the approach what we recommend.
That's really interesting, the approach that you recommend, right? You start with observability, get all your data on point, and then move into AIOps. And that actually naturally brings up another important question. So is observability something that is needed for all organizations? And how do these needs differ across industries? Because I'm sure in your experience, you would have interacted with various organizations, especially with implementation of these technologies, right? So from that point of view, what is your take on this?
That's a great question. In fact, on the which industry has to take up on IT observability front, right? I'm sorry. So observability and AIOps, as I said, right, they both are data driven and they complement each other. So this is a common thing. Now, it's not specific industry. End of the day, if you want to improve your IT operation, right, you have to take a step towards observability. It is like, can I go from your conventional data center to cloud? It's up to you for your business type. I can completely migrate my business to a cloud, right? Do a transformation towards to a cloud, or I can do it 80%, 60%, 40%, depends upon, correct? So the end of the day depends upon the technology transformation you have to go through for the betterment of operation. Again, it is for the betterment of operations, right? Your digital adaptation. So scalability towards digital adaptation. So my business grows, automatically I have to scale, right? To bring that, that is the adaptation. So coming into IT observability point of view, it is same as like on the other side of transformation, what they do on technology. On operation side, I would say it is a must needed to start with observability at this juncture, at this right now, I would say, because AIOps we have started, and then it's been a long time ago we have started AIOps. So, what is the maturity of AIOps today? Because there are a lot of challenges. The challenge is nothing but consolidating the data, and there is no concept of observability earlier. The observability are lying within the AIOps engine. There is no consolidated observability. There is no data engine available to bring in the unified observability, right? So it is a must for any, be it a small, medium, large, to start with observability and for the betterment of IT operations.
That's great advice, Siva. So starting off with observability, of course, would seem like a big step, but when you put it so simply in simple terms, I think it's easy for organizations, or at least our IT leaders who are viewing this webinar, to take a decision on how to approach observability. So Gauri, my next question is to you. Siva so neatly explained is if observability is something that is needed for every organization. And the right answer is yes. Organizations should start now because the industry has evolved much more. AIOps was already there in the picture, and now organizations, enterprises are already moving towards AIOps. So the next question naturally that comes to mind is, from a solution perspective, when organizations are pivoting towards observability and they are looking at solutions that can help them achieve this, how are they to approach this? So what is the right mix of observability and AIOps capabilities that these organizations should look for in a solution to tackle complexities that they are facing?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, as Shiva has already mentioned, so AIOps was there already, right? We were the customers were using it for automation purposes, right? But it was not tied to observability. But once observability comes in, as I previously mentioned, there are lots and lots of melted data coming in, right? So it is not humanly possible to go through all these things and then give some high-level insights which are useful for the business. It wasn't possible. So some of the normal AIOps, but that has to be moved into the observability part to provide more insights. So a couple of examples I could say. In the past, we used to have thresholds, right? We call them as baselining. So when a product is installed, a monitoring tool, it is going to monitor your complete infrastructure, right? There could be thousands of devices, and each device will have thousands of matrices. So one of the main challenge that time was to set the thresholds or configure the baseline for all those matrices. To be frank, some of the customers spent more than a month to manually go through each and every metric, find the baseline, how my metric performed over the period of time, and then set a threshold. That was a time-consuming process, right? So this AIOps and observability, when they tied it together, so it can be n number of monitors and n number of matrices across the system, right? But no worries. AIOps can come in and it can configure it can identify the anomalies on its own based on the previous trend, and it can also set a dynamic baseline called adaptive threshold on all those matrices, right? When it was introduced in our product, it was one of the most adopted feature across the customers. So we started with one or two matrices to start with, but customers wanted more, and it helped them to reduce the manual effort. So it is not just providing more insights, but it is also helpful to reduce the manual effort involved in it. So this is one use case. And the second one would be capacity planning. So when you talk capacity planning, it could be like a normal use case, but in a very complex IT environment that's spread across multiple layers, hybrid, multi-clouds, this plays a very important role. So this tells how my infra is going to grow at a scale when more number of users are coming in. So it is able to predict the load and then give some suggestions on how my capacity would be, what kind of CPU should be there, what kind of memory should be allotted to it, and importantly the disk size. Those things are coming in, and this capacity planning has reduced a lot of downtime because it was able to predict the changes or the growth of IT infra, right? So this is one. And the third could be, since observability is there, one of the main goal of observability is to identify the mappings, the service mappings or interdependencies between the entities that are spread across multiple locations, hybrid and multi-cloud, etc. So with the help of this service mapping, automated service mapping, identifying the relationship, an admin was able to do the better root cause analysis. Say when something is going down, initially it would have taken multiple admins from server team, network team, database team to identify where the exact problem is, and then to tell a root cause. That would have taken around 7 days or 8 days. But with the help of this observability and this service mapping use cases, as soon as the problem is there, the admin was able to get the insights about the interdependent entities, and there could be an anomaly or some other issues which could have triggered a sequence of actions in the outage. So it was able to stitch these things together, and it was able to give the exact root cause. Right. This reduced the MTTR part, so the mean time to repair, and they were able to identify it instead of a week. They were able to do it in 30 minutes or 1 hour. So this was one of the important use case. And the same interdependencies, the relationships will be useful in identifying the outages in future. Say something is going to happen now, a minor deviation or anomaly is happening, but in the past the same anomaly has resulted in some other outages. So it can provide you some additional insights about be ready for it. It may or may not happen. So this kind of proactive alerting is also possible with the help of by marrying observability with AIOps. And there are some smaller use cases like ChatOps, say admin coming in the next day in the morning and asking, say, how many devices were having high CPU utilization. You tell me that could give the results immediately instead of going there and checking the report. Just by asking it, a ChatOps use case can solve it immediately with the help of AI integration. And similarly, some other use case that we are also working on, say a monitoring tool like observability or monitoring tool like us will have a lot of scripts for custom needs. So in case if something is not there in the solution, we provide an option to write some scripts so that they can integrate it and then get the values out of it. But the problem is the time taken to write the script. So by integrating Gen AI tools like ChatGPT, we can simply write a query like write a Python query for this and convert that into a format which could be used in product like ours. So that can be done, and the customers are using it, and that reduces the time to achieve something, right? So these are all some of the use cases when we marry this observability with AIOps.
Thank you so much, Gauri. So I think it's pretty evident that AI augments primary capabilities of an observability solution. So this huge volume of data is there, and using traditional monitoring tools, people had to look at the numbers, they had to look at the graphs, they had to correlate multiple things. But now, with the help of AI, of course, it is able to crunch all that number and give you insights or actionable insights, which is, I think, the need of the hour. And so, Siva,
Yes.
from your expertise, what are some key considerations? Gauri touched upon a lot of use cases. These are critical use cases. On top of that, what are some key considerations that an organization should take into account when evaluating an observability solution? So are there specific features or capabilities that are must-have based on what's happening in the industry right now?
Like as the main objective of observability is it's to provide or integrate many of the tool sets and get a lot of input, right? So to process the data and bring in the data engine, right? So your data ingestion and data processing, and then there are certain features not only within the same tool set. There are external tools which can provide the data. You have to bring in either through a webhook or API, or it can be flat file integration. You have to read it through logs and traces, right? So the key thing is your tool should be qualified not as a one of the module within your tool. Your observability should be the can be consumed as a separate module. So instead of saying that okay, the tool will work only when it is tightly integrated with the rest of the modules, but observability as a separate module should go hand in hand with the external tool set along with the internally enabled tools. So that's a key thing what we look at it when we provide a solution to customers, right? We don't, because every tool in the market have all the modules are enabled with observability features. But if you look at it, the key need of an R as an observability is to address lot of data to be ingested into observability in order to process, take it for a better IT operations. To give a better, it's a better recommendation to go through a AIOps adaptation for automations and so on, right? Considering that, the first recommendation what we provide is start with the observability model, which can be consumed as an individual observability, though it has many other capabilities. Focus on this observability, getting the and second is about when you say observability, the best practice of getting into observability and providing a lot of uh, like futuristic inputs on like these are things. You should be having a scalability and both on horizontal vertical scalability, because you are going to pump in a lot of data. You have to consider, okay, I'm going to do it in a SaaS or I'm going to do it in on-prem. What are the amount of data I'm going to pump out from a different cloud and then put in a, because end of the day we have to calculate wherever there is a potential opportunity where your cost is going to be incurred, we have to calculate that and we have to start with. Though we are focused on IT operations, we should not end up in too much of expenditure or operational costs should not increase. You have to plan it. The architecture of observability adoption should be planned accordingly. Depends upon the environment. So there'll be a smaller environment, there'll be a very complex environment, having multiple clouds, be it a private cloud or public cloud, but they need to have it in an on-prem. So it depends upon that the decision can be made, and they have to go through that, defining the architecture, what is the volume they are going to bring in, and to process the data and take it up accordingly.
Thank you so much, Siva. So also another add-on question to this. So you also touched upon the cloud, right? So how does that complexity influence decision-making when it comes to observability tools?
Great question. So getting into observability, right? So cloud complexity is like most of the cases, your cloud is also providing a lot of insights, correct? So the cloud observability is there separately, and you have multi-cloud environment. Okay, when you have a multi-cloud environment, you have different SaaS and PaaS services you consume within the cloud, right? So it's not like just you are going to collect the data of matrices or melt within the cloud environment. You have to collect the insights from the different PaaS services within the cloud. So when you, I mean, that's the major thing, right? I have to provide, if my application environment is running on EKS and AKS and a Kubernetes, not getting the generic insights on your performance and metrics is not going to be helpful. So that is where your observability today, melt is the key thing which we speak about. However, in the melt, the key point is the logs which you are going to get it from the cloud layer. The PaaS layer is going to play a major role to bring the difference in the operations. So your AIOps is going to bring out value based on the data provided by the observability output, right? So you have to get all level of insight, not to miss out any kind of data. Even you do a custom development of application and you have a custom logs enabled, that is also going to bring a major change in your IT operations if you put it in a cloud point of view. So all the clouds, how to integrate the data sets has to be passed on to a data engine. So be it see, that's where the cloud plays the reason why I understood from you that asking on the cloud, because most of the today's scenario, all the customers are either they are in the 80% adapted to cloud. So only very limited they are into a public cloud or into into a data center specific like on-prem environment. So mostly into a completely into a cloud or into a hyper-converged environment. So when you say cloud, including the converged environment in a private cloud, has to be passed on the insights to the data engine layer, getting into observability and taking forward. But one major thing which I wanted to bring in is putting an effort in observability and looking at the AIOps output, observability output. More than this, there should be a organization look at it into a cultural change. So cultural changes, implementing is one, making use of that implementation and incrementally evolving using that implementation on the output of those implementation is going to create a success story. Otherwise, like we have a very key saying from our German novel writer, a person named called Franz Kafka. Said about, okay, paths are made by walking. So which you have to continuously use it so that you ensure that adapting to the best practice and you get the better output. Otherwise, like use it for half of the way. So we have to continuously use and incrementally evolve. And that's incremental approach. You cannot just like that implement observability. It's not going to resolve anything. You have to take a leap step towards what are things you have to improvise on your monitoring using observability. So if there is a potential opportunity to identify, okay, I want this input to be adapted, but I don't have a logs enabled for it, then it goes as input for application team to bring in a log instead of keeping that log as a debug log, making that log as a standard logs with a minimalistic log captured within the application, so that that goes as a key input to your observability into IT operation, where you can bring in automation enablement for the betterment of your IT operations.
So thank you, Siva. I think you also addressed the next question I had in mind, which is, let's say organizations already have certain tools in place. So they have their own ITSM tool, they have various other tools. Even some organizations have specific tools for infrastructure management, specific tools only to manage application performance. So when observability comes into the picture, how should they approach it? Should they, because you also touched upon integration. So how do modern observability tools integrate with current tools? And also, what is the standpoint that organizations should take when it comes to adopting such an observability model?
And see, all this are revolving around the observability, right? So we to integrate a plethora of tools used by customers, right? So when I say customers or enterprise IT, I would say. So when you say plethora of tools, starting from your administration tool, your monitoring tool, and your other ticketing system and your asset management. So not leaving up any of those, which is catering to your enterprise IT services. So all these tools are bringing a lot of value with the data. Now, the major challenge is we are using AIOps individually addressing the automation on each and every layer, but we never brought in the consolidated data, bringing into one code to address what is really impacting, right? We never had impact of saying that, okay, this is a business service is getting impacted. This service is getting impacted because of my data, what I getting it from so and so. There's no topology based connections we bring in, or you bring in the service layer improvement, be it a CMDB system or whatsoever the configuration item, what you capture, right? So to now to bring in a improvement across all these layers, your data has to be consolidated to one single layer first. Whatever the output you get it from the individual tool, it may be any third party tool, it may be a homegrown tool, it may be any third party tool. The tool what you bring in as observability should be potentially able to collect the insights, maybe through as I said, there are multiple ways to collect it, right? Some tool can provide only SNMP based output, some tool will provide only controller based output, some tool provides either the webhook or the API. So we can adapt. To end of the day, the observability should be able to all the data, should be able to read all the data and bring the contextualization on top of it, and bring out the recommendations to the next layer for AIOps. So the best option to go through is observability, use it as a data engine layer, process it, and move it to the next layer.
Thank you, Siva. Gauri, what is your take on this? So as a vendor of IT management solution, how do you approach the development of observability solutions from this standpoint?
Shiva has already covered some of the points. Say, he was talking about the instrumentation part. He was talking about SNMP or WMI or the controller based connectivity and getting the information from it, right? So that is called as instrumentation. So I would say we have to take, as a vendor, we have to take a platform approach, right? So once we take the platform approach, the other option, the first thing we need to do is to solve the instrumentation. There could be some different applications, different technologies, even new technologies could also be coming in. So we should be able to adopt those technologies and try to bring in the instrumentation data, the data that can be ingested. Some data can directly come in as an event. We can just plug it in and then show some insights. For others, we have to go and talk to it. There could be different mechanisms to talk to it. SNMP and WMA are few, but there could be APIs. There could be separate, API technologies for storage devices. Those things should come in. And then once the data is coming, there should be a layer for proper processing and analysis that we need to do it properly. And then if more and more data is coming in, our storage layer should be strong enough to have everything together. And then a proper remediation or action part should also be there, right? So these are all the 4 options that we need to take with respect to platform. This is one. And so a real world IT infrastructure would be a mix of different applications. So as I said, this instrumentation process would be an important thing to solve immediately, right? And then consolidation. Here, Shiva also mentioned about consolidation and integrating with other vendors, right? So I also see a lot of consolidation happening in the market. Say, there are pure play AIOps vendors in the past. They are getting merged into some security analytics products or observability products. So if this consolidation is happening, an observability vendor should also be able to interoperate with other tools. So as a vendor, I should be able to ingest data from other sources, as well as there could be some other observability tools at a higher layer. We should be able to provide some information from here to the observability layer for them to process it, right? So these are all some of the things that we need to take as an observability vendor. And while doing all these things, we need to make sure that the cost of observability is less. That is an important point. So a lot of our customers comparing the pure play AIOps vendors and other complex the observability vendors, the return of investment, say they're increasing the storage, they're increasing the infrastructure and everything, but as a return, what am I getting? Are the insights coming from those tools are really useful? Are they giving the proper return of investment? Those things need to be considered. And we should be, as a vendor, we should be giving a solution that should not increase the observability cost. If it increases, we should be able to justify that cost with the insights that we provide. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gauri. Actually, cost is another major factor because, we're all in the industry. We see a lot of threads, especially on Reddit and various platforms, where people are, really concerned with the cost of observability, especially also the licensing model of various tools out there. All of that also comes into the picture. So, Siva, this question is to you. So how should organizations approach budgeting for observability and AI tools?
That was a very critical question, right? So end of the day, everything boils down to your pricing and cost, right? So even you do a IT operations betterment, it's to bring down the cost, right? So investing on a tool, on observability. So I mean, before you start with observability, I would recommend consolidate or try to improvise your current monitoring, whatever you have it in the environment. For example, I have a monitoring of different technologies. You have to scrutinize that monitoring. When I say scrutinize, it's not to reduce the monitoring capability, but ensure that you are monitoring exactly what is required for your environmental behavior, and you are taking respective actions to incident and so on, right? So having done this activity prior to adapting to observability will help you to reduce the cost of investment on observability, because tomorrow some tools are charged based on the CI, some tools are charged based on the volume of data what you pump in, right? End of the day, both are going to incur additional charges, though they call it as a CI based, but eventually when you start pumping too much of insights, right, there will be a capping to it. You cannot pass on the data to the observability beyond the threshold of whatever you put it across, right? Having said that, improvise the existing monitoring in a dedicated way Like every technology, scrutinize what needs to be monitored as a minor, major, critical, what has to go through as a major and critical. Is that a tool is capable to monitor 100 matrices. Whether all those 100 matrices are really required for me to monitor for my environmental behavior, or I can go with the 50 matrices, but measuring, okay, not all 50 matrices are should be critical, right? It should be a minor, major, some are more unnoticeable. So doing this level of activity, it sounds like a very traditional or a conventional, but doing this activity definitely helps you to bring down the cost where you're going to invest on a tool, an observability layer, and take into it. Because end of the day, either you have to do it now or you have to do it after investing on a tool. So I would recommend better do it before and then take it forward with observability so that you can add more matrices if it is required for environmental behavior is changing in terms of additional blocks to be monitored and so on. You can add it. Otherwise, that will increase the additional cost in a later point in time. Okay, I take everything as is and then I start increasing the additional data points will definitely increase. So data is key here. So instead of pumping the entire data inside, let's focus on what amount of data to go in. So let's scrutinize the tools within the environment, then take it to the next level. That's the recommendation what we typically put it across.
Yes, Siva. So that's one aspect of it. Also, when organizations think of observability, there could be some roadblocks. They might not want to adopt it yet. It could be, I don't know, maybe skilled personnel, a lack of skilled personnel, or some resistance to change, or some initial high cost of investment initially. So there are various factors. So from your experience, what are some roadblocks that you've seen that organizations are facing?
I mean, that's a very, for the key to success, right? Where, what are the new things you adapt? This is one of the very important factor to consider. So the cultural change is more important. So when you say that I'm adapting to cloud or transformation to cloud, though the application as an end user is going to work in the same way, it's nothing going to change. But what we focus on our IT operations front, right? Your operations, your monitoring methodology, what you had earlier traditionally in on-prem, and what you're going to have it in a cloud, it is definitely is going to change. So the operations team have to scale up and to adapt it to it. Likewise, the cultural change for new model what you bring in, right? Earlier it used to called as a manager of manager, right? You have a even correlation engine, manager of manager, all those things which are all limited to the just matrices alone. Now you're bringing matrices, logs and traces, everything put together. You are bringing in a new things where the targeted support team, the L2 team or L3 team or SREs, has to go through a cultural change or to have a training before they get into a usage of these new gen tools coming in as observability, how the tool can be used, how the inferences of the output can be leveraged for the betterment of their operations. That will bring in a success story about adaptation to the tools, right? So I mean, this is one of the key thing which I would say I have experienced. And though you bring in a superficial tool, plug in, it does everything, and a lot of efforts are done to do it. Until and unless the user is not using it in rightfully or religiously, it will not bring out any output. You will not get the ROI, right? Tool can bring in a certain amount of ROI without the dependency of human intervention, but end of the day, human intervention is a must as part of the IT services front, right? They go through a lot of inputs, they go through different technology, different teams connected to it collaboratively. So using the new observability and AIOps collectively, and that really make a big difference to it.
Thank you, Siva. So I think we've almost come to the end of our the panel discussion. So the last question is to both of you. What trends do you see shaping the future of observability and AI in IT operations?
Maybe I'll go first. Shiva even covered some of the points. Say the trends in the sense, as a observability tool vendor, we should be able to increase the scope. So at first we started with IT alone, but the customers are trying to ingest some other information as well. Say IoT, it wasn't there before. We didn't think about it. initially. It is coming in, and in future there could be OT information also coming from it. So when we say observability vendor, we may not be able to cover 100% even in future. There could be still some scope to learn and get inside the tool, and it is going to be ever evolving. So we should be able to adapt to the needs and the changes that industry or the market is evolving. So that is my take from the observability tool vendor perspective.
That's very true. I echo with what Gauri said, in fact. So, but only thing is the readiness towards observability as a product standpoint, right, should be scalable. So that's the name we call it as observability, right? Today it may be limited to the boundary of only to the melt point of view. Tomorrow it should cater to the telemetry, more on your OT environment, right? So it's going to make a lot of difference too. So that's why I called one more line item saying that it's a data engine. So your data should be getting in, not limited to the melt, more kind of data. Your security log can be ingested, right? With more. So anyway, the SIM is doing it. But why do this observability have to do? Say SIM doing it and it's consolidating, but the consolidated output, if it ingests input to the observability layer along with the other melt and all those things will differently is going to make a difference. Someone is having a thread login going on and there is alarm related to some accessibility on the application. There is something happening in the pod. As a outsider and an individual looking at it, it's like a different technology, different people trying to resolve different issues. But end of the day, we have to connect the dots and see, and that can be done by entering into the observability layer.
Thank you so much, Siva and Gauri. So from what I understand, it's a combination of people, process, and technology. And technology without the right processes, I don't think it'll help any organization. Without the right people to leverage that technology and without process, so it's all interdependent. And when the tools bring the right actionable insights, it'll definitely help. And also, thank you so much for sharing details on the framework to this adoption. So first off, they should set up a data lake, make sure that all of the data points are set and they are very clear on what they want to track and what sort of insights they want. And on top of that, when they introduce an observability solution and all of that data is collected in one single area, then of course AI comes on top of it to give you insights, which of course teams can use to act on top of it. Another important point that both of you covered is also the variation per industry. So each industry has its own nuances. And when it comes to instrumentation, they might have to bring in IoT data or integrate with OT, operational technologies in their environment. And this, of course, needs capabilities to ingest that information. And that, of course, comes in the form of various telemetry or REST API-based data ingestion. So with all of this consolidated and organizations having a clear mindset on what they want to achieve, observability and AIOps will definitely help. And now is the right time. Organizations should definitely switch right now towards adopting observability in AI. So if you are watching and you haven't already thought about it, please definitely check it out. We also have various resources that can help you in your process towards adopting observability and AIOps. Thank you so much, Gauri. Thank you so much, Siva, for spending your valuable time sharing all of this insights with our audience. Have a great day and see you later again in another webinar.